Welcome to the Extraordinary Acts for Others podcast, brought to you by the extraordinary friends here at Freedom's Ring. We are excited to celebrate the extraordinary goodness being done right here in our extraordinary country by some truly extraordinary people. It is our sincere hope that we will excite your spirit, and after listening to today's podcast, you will excitedly go out and do your own extraordinary acts for others in your community. Are you ready? Let's get excited. Hello, everyone. I am so thankful that you are here listening to the Extraordinary Acts for Others podcast and filling up your cup with goodness. This podcast is brought to you by Freedom's Ring. We want to make sure that you know that Freedom's Ring is not just sponsoring this podcast, but they do the work to make this podcast work. It's one of our communication tools as an organization and one of our amazing ways that we try to use to celebrate the things that we believe that's making our country even more extraordinary. And the way that we do that is to celebrate others who are doing service, good work in our country. So I'm really excited because today we have Amanda Baity from Semper K9, and they are truly extraordinary guest to have on today. She's a military spouse, and after her husband left the Marine Corps as a dog handler, they decided to start a nonprofit that rescues dogs, trains them to be service dogs, and matches them to veterans who are in need of a service dog, all at no cost to the veterans. We had such a good conversation that this is a two-part podcast. So we'll have part one this week and part two the following week. So it's really remarkable what they're doing, and it's why they are our extraordinary guest. But before we get to that, we have the 3 things to know about Freedom's Ring. And we want to use these 3 things to talk about our Hard Work of Freedom tour. We're really drilling in on that because it's coming up. It's starting May 10th, which is Military Spouse Day, and goes through 4th of July. And so we really want to get the word out and know that we're going to 20 cities to do 20 service projects. If you want to see what cities we're going to and the service projects that we have, you can go to www.freedomsringusa.org/hardworkoffreedomtour. If you are planning on serving with us, you must register and get the Event Brite ticket, but all the links are posted on the website, which again is freedomsringusa.org/hardworkoffreedomtour. Now, if we do not have a service project in your community, we do have virtual opportunities for you. So sign up as a virtual service project, and you can do your own volunteer work in your own community, which still can unite with us as we're on the Hard Work of Freedom tour. And then the third thing is, if you know any other military spouses, parents, or siblings, or active community members who would like to make our country even more extraordinary by serving with us, and they happen to live in one of the areas that we do have a service event, invite them to it. These are open projects where people can come as long as they are registered. There are some service projects where space is limited, so you must have the Event Brite ticket. But we want to invite people out because one of the extraordinary benefits of service projects is having that meaningful impact with others. So by having that shared experience that is aligned with our values of giving and serving, it's a glue that just helps build relationships and keeps that foundation of relationship building in our community sturdy. So please spread the word, invite others, and know that anyone is welcome to join us on the Hard Work of Freedom tour. So with those housekeeping items out of the way, here is the first part of our conversation with Amanda Baity. Our extraordinary guest today is Amanda Baity of Semper K9. So Amanda, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the origin of Semper K9?
Okay, so my name is Amanda Baity. I am the co-founder and director of operations of Semper K9 Assistance Dogs. My husband, Chris, is the other co-founder, and he was a Marine working dog handler. He enlisted in 2000 and got out in 2009. And multiple combat deployments as a working dog handler. When we were in high school, we were in Marine Corps JROTC together, and that kind of paved the way for his military career. He knew he wanted to join the military and he wanted to work with animals, but he didn't really know exactly what to do. He had originally thought about being a veterinarian in the Army possibly, but we went on a field trip. We're from the Atlanta area, and we went on a field trip up here to Quantico, which is where I am now. And he caught a dog when we toured the kennels. So catching a dog is you put on the bite suit and they release the dog on you and the dog grabs onto your arm. He was one of the few that was old enough legally to do it. And that minute after he took that off, he's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a working dog handler. So back in 2000, when he joined the Marine Corps, the route to become a working dog handler was to, first you had to become an MP, and then you became MP K9, and then you could apply for K9 school, and you had to be at the top of your class for each thing in order to get that advancement. So he went to K9 school at Lackland Air Force Base, and he was top dog. So that put him on a path of doing some work with working dogs in the Marine Corps. He's one of 5 Marines to go to Israel as a Marine to train with the IDF OCAD's dog school. And he became an instructor for the specialized search detector dog program in the Marine Corps. So that's what he did. And he was a kennel master when he was deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, and also had a working dog himself. Fast forward to 2009 and leaving the Marine Corps, not wanting to do any more deployments. And he always had contracting work involving dogs. Worked for the IRS with a dog. He worked for a bed bug detection company with a dog. He was doing some piracy work overseas with a dog, anti-piracy work on ships. And he just kind of was always bouncing around from one contract to another until we stumbled upon the service dog world. And he was just like, this is why I made it back from each deployment in one piece. Do this. I have this skill and I'm struggling to find where I fit in the world and why I made it back. So we decided 110% we were going to do this. So we put our life savings into it while Chris didn't work, and we started Semper K9 in 2014. And we've slowly been building and have gained some national spotlight, has made us a little bit more popular with the veterans. So we're trying to grow our program to accommodate that.
It's amazing when you find that it's like the Venn diagram where like your passion lies, and are you paid for it, and is it serving the world?
Yes.
And when that clicks, there's a big aha moment, and then you see that it serves other people, that when you do this. And so I'm wondering about the working with dogs. Have both of you guys grown up with dogs like as kids, or has that been you mentioned he wanted to be a vet.
Yeah, so my entire life, and it's funny, my husband and I just had this conversation yesterday. We went through the rundown of every dog that I ever had as a child. I've had a dog every day that I've been alive. There's not a day that's gone by in my life that I didn't have a pet dog. We didn't have any other pets. It was always dogs. And Chris, his mother and stepfather raised labs. They always had litters of puppies to take care of. And my family also bred the dogs that we had. So I had to take care of, from birth, puppies going forward. And Chris's dad also had a dog. So we've always had dogs. We've always loved dogs. And we knew the power of healing that a dog can have for anyone, whether you're disabled or not. It was just a natural fit. And Chris has always won from a young age. That was always going to be his career path. And mine was marine biology for a long time until I escaped a shark attack. And I quickly changed my major to something else. So I did not become a marine biologist, but I've always had a love of animals, and so has he. And we both grew up, in a sort of the same socioeconomic background, blue-collar families, lower middle class, in the same area outside of Atlanta. So we both have the same ideals. Our goals are similar, and it's just, at times it's challenging working with your spouse, but at the end of the day, we're helping so many people, not just the veterans that we serve, but their families, their extended families, their coworkers, our volunteers within the organization, and most importantly, our children. We're giving them a firsthand look at what it means to truly give back to others.
I guess that you guys started this as a nonprofit. Do you think that if you had gone in another way and by being a vet or anything, that would have gave you the same sense of purpose or commitment to it?
I think there was never a doubt in our mind that we were going to do nonprofit as far as that question goes. When we first sat down, and Chris had an internship with the Semper Fi Fund, and Karen Gunther is their CEO, and she actually hired him herself, and she was his direct supervisor. And he was going to have this internship of developing a service dog program around using rescue dogs. And he did that for 9 months. And the funding ended for that program on the East Coast, and we didn't want to move our family again and go back to the West Coast. So we decided we're going to do it ourselves, and she actually encouraged us to do that. The reason I bring that point up is because our biggest things were we didn't want to charge the veterans any money. We wanted everything that they get from us to be for free. Their travel here, when they stay, the service dog, the follow-on training, everything. We didn't want them to spend any money. The second thing was we wanted to utilize rescue dogs. And the third thing was we wanted to involve that entire family unit into this process, whether it be the caregiver were the parents of the veteran, the spouse of the veteran, or the children of the veteran. We want them all incorporated in some way and included in the training. And I feel like because that was our top 3 priorities, it would not have made sense to be a for-profit, mainly because we would have needed to rely on donations and support in order to be able to provide those services for free. So in our mind, it was always going to be a nonprofit. I don't know if going the for-profit route would have helped us. We may have been able to still provide dogs for free while doing paid dog training or something along those lines. But having a business where you're a dog trainer is a lot harder than a lot of people think. It's a pretty hard for-profit business to do it very successfully, but it is a lot of work, and so is a nonprofit. But it just made more sense for us to go that path because the both of us throughout our lives, we've been very giving. Even though we were lower middle class, both of our families always taught us to give to others if you have something to give, whether it be your time, actual items, services, or money. So we've always been in that philanthropist mindset ourselves, and it only made sense for us to go down that route.
Can you talk a little bit about the need and some of the veterans that you're bringing in to receive dogs, and then also how that canine companionship really does influence the positive outlook for veterans?
There are a lot of service dog organizations in the country. There are a lot of great organizations, and there's a lot that aren't so great. So there's always somewhere in the country, there's always a place for people that need assistance to come for help. In the veteran world, it's a lot harder for veterans. They have a lot of pride, and non-veterans have a lot of pride as well. But in the veteran world, there's a lot of pride there. So it's really hard to ask for help or to even admit that you need the help. And the need is out there for veterans that need service dogs, but a service dog is not always the answer for a veteran who may be struggling with PTSD, or even a veteran who has an amputation, who's missing a limb. A service dog may not be the answer for them. A service dog is like having a child that will never be able to speak to you and tell you what they need, but they need care 24/7. So having that side of things, you have to kind of balance it. What makes the most sense, for the veterans that we're trying to serve? We have great partnerships with Marine Corps Base Quantico, which is right here where we are, and Fort Belvoir in their Wounded Warrior Regiment and Wounded Warrior Battalion at Quantico. We also have partnerships with the Semper Fi Fund and the Navy and Marine Relief Society. And they typically send us a lot of veterans that are here local to us, but we help veterans from around the country. We actually have a dog at Koda Air Base in Japan, and we have a dog in Hawaii right now. And we have a veteran who travels back and forth to Malta with his dog. They go once a month to Malta, so they come back and forth from here. Trying to identify the veterans that need our assistance is not as hard. Getting them through the application process so that we can ensure that having a service dog is going to be great for their care plan, whether that be a physical reason that they need a service dog or one for mental health. And we consider our dogs mental health mobility dogs because they ultimately do both. They do mental health tasks for a veteran, and they do mobility tasks, whether the person is wheelchair bound or missing a limb. They would still do those mobility tasks. Just to be clear on what a service animal is, what a service dog is specifically, it is a dog that is trained to perform work or tasks for a disabled person. That's the American with Disabilities Act definition of a service dog. The trained part and the disabled person part is important, because you have to have a diagnosed disability in order to have a service dog. And the dog has to be specifically trained to do the tasks. A lot of dogs are natural retrievers, but training that dog to do it on command, get, bring, give, those types of things, that's what sets a service dog aside from an emotional support animal or a pet. Our veterans truly go through a lot of training in order to, determine, yes, this is exactly what I want, because their medical team may say, yes, a service dog will help. And in their mind, they may think, oh, a service dog is going to help. But it's hard having a service dog. It's not as easy as a lot of people may think. And it's not as glamorous as a lot of people may think. There's a lot of planning that goes into an outing with a service dog. What time did they eat? Are they going to have to poop if we're on the plane? Did I pack all the poop bags? Do I have, water, a water bottle, a bowl to put the water in? All of these things are involved in that. And we go through that process and teach the veteran and their family what to do. That bond that the dog and the veteran have, that emotional bond, which I think is where a lot of people get the word emotional support animal mixed up with service animal. Any animal that you are in contact with, you're going to have an emotional bond with them if they're your dog or your animal. And an emotional support animal can be any animal, but a service dog is a dog. And dogs have a healing ability that many other animals don't. And that's the reason they're called man's best friend. And I have just seen families transformed. I couldn't even tell you how touching it is when you see a family interacting with the service dog and you knew that prior to going through this process, there was a huge disconnect, and the potential that these children of this veteran would grow up with their parent absent from the life, not going to school functions, not going to the movies, not going to the mall to go shopping, things we take for granted, not going to theme parks, amusement parks, graduation for their child, scared to go to graduation because of the crowds. And these service dogs are giving them back their independence and their value, and it's giving their family something to really resonate with.
You also talked about one of your 3 things was to rescue dogs. Mm-hmm. How do you vet that process?
So we have a rescue partner, Operation Pause for Homes. They're in Northern Virginia. They're like a satellite rescue. So they have fosters that the people take the dogs in to their homes until they find a proper new home, forever home. And we have set up a process when we adopt the dog in that is a little unique. But with my husband's background in the Marine Corps and his formal training working with dogs, we have a temperament test that he actually developed from the military working dog side. Obviously, we're not looking for any aggression, and definitely not wanting any biting or anything like that. But aside from those types of things that a military working dog may possibly have, everything else is pretty similar. A need to work, a desire to work. Sometimes you just see a dog and you can just tell they just want to hang out all day, chill on the couch beside you, not do anything. That's not the kind of dog we're looking for. We're looking for a dog who just wants to work, who needs a job, and who has a desire to please. And we look for those things early on, and that's how we select our dogs. Unfortunately, with our rescue partner, we are able to evaluate a lot of rescue litters. At times, pregnant females in a high kill shelter are one of the ones set up to get euthanized, unfortunately, because once those puppies are born, that's more time and money that the shelter is going to have to spend feeding multiple mouths versus just the mother. So our rescue partner adopts and brings those pregnant females in. The litter is born either in transit at the shelter or at the rescue, and we get the opportunity to evaluate that entire litter, and we pick the best from the litter. So far, we've had 100% success rate on our dogs. So that won't last forever, but right now it's 100%.
You mentioned before when we were talking off camera, but you paired about 50 veterans with dogs so far?
Yes, about that many. We also work, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say we also work with veterans who already have dogs that may be performing disability mitigating tasks, as in retrieving pouches, helping them open the door, helping them with mobility challenges. So we'll train those dogs as well. That's part of our program. If they're local, we bring them in and start working with them. The only difference is the dog goes home with them and they take care of the dog. We're just supplying the training.
And so you had these connections where you're having these veterans come to you, mm-hmm. and it sounds like your process is very deeply involved with them. That you don't just here's a match and send off. It's the bringing the whole family in to meet it and to train together, and then how about the contact afterwards too?
So we do have. We call it our lifetime program. If a veteran has one of our dogs, we are always in contact with them. That dog's ready to retire so that we can get another dog for them, so that if they're ready for another dog, they won't have a day without a service dog. We get really close with these families. We're a military family, and at the end of the day, we're here to help them. So the important part for us is that we're giving them all of the tools that they need to go on and live a life that they want. And these families become part of our family. So we have our volunteer family that help us operate and help us make this possible. And sometimes there's crossover into our veteran family and the families that we're helping. And these dogs, we're training them for almost a year, sometimes a year and a half. These dogs become part of our volunteers family and our family. They come into our home when we first start out and we start training them. They are trained in a home-like environment. We don't have a kennel. And they become part of your life. And once you make that connection with these military families and the veterans that are coming for help, whether they have family members or not, the connection that you're making with them is something I can't even explain other than saying that we're family, because they trust you so much to get them to where they want to be. They're telling you, I want to be able to do this, and they're being very vulnerable with you, and you can't help but want to help them so much that you have that family bond, that feeling is just like a family. And we do stay with them forever. And like I said, we were founded in 2014, so that was 5 years ago. We have not gotten to that point, but we are getting close where a dog is ready for retirement. And we're still in contact with all of our veterans, and it's a lot of work. Think about having a family, a large extended family that you're having to stay in contact with on a regular basis. It is a lot of work, but it's so rewarding knowing and seeing the impact that you're making on these people's lives.
Do you have a favorite moment of impact?
Favorite moment of impact? There are just so many. Well, I will tell one story that was really great, and this family means a lot to us. Veteran was friends with another veteran that got a dog from us. And the family was skeptical on, I don't think service dog is going to help. I think this is, the spouse was having some difficulty with a dog coming in to take over some of her caregiver duties. I don't understand why I can't help you. Why can't I do this? Why can't I help you with this? It's causing a lot of struggle there in the family just by going through the program. And the veteran was struggling at work. He was struggling at home. And he has small children like our family. And the veteran took the dog home for the first time. And it was such a change for the family. And the spouse just couldn't believe it. She's like, I just cannot believe this. The veteran actually now works for the VA. He's one of their caseworkers in the mental health department. And his dog goes with him to work every day. And the family just came back from a trip to Disney, and they go to Disney World and they go do all of these things that they struggled to do before. Their marriage is stronger. Their family bond is stronger. The veteran's work life is stronger and better, and the whole morale. And, all of these families that we're touching and that we're bringing in to our family, and that we're trying our best to help them in any way. And sometimes the service dog doesn't help. And just coming in and being able to have that camaraderie that they miss being active duty, and being around other veterans is helpful for them. But my husband is also a disabled veteran. And seeing his happiness, joy, fulfillment, whatever word you want to plug in there, on a job well done, and seeing his reaction to these families and their changes that happen when they get their service dog, makes me want to work harder every day, and drives me to make sure that our organization is always around and successful, so that my husband has that feeling of success, I guess, for lack of a better word, and purpose.
Well, and I've found in some of my schooling and research through psychology was just like that ability to contribute, the ability to give back, to do something good that is useful for others, is really healing at all ages. And they talk about it like with parenting. So we have young kids too. And the more that you can get them involved and make them helpers, like the more smooth that the household goes, because they want to contribute. And then they talk about it with like seniors, of being some of the major loss that they feel is the lack of ability to contribute. And it becomes a very healing piece to anybody's story if they can find where their contribution is making a difference.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering what you've learned, I guess, from between the first exchange and your most recent exchange of handing over a dog to a vet.
One thing I have learned is that it's okay to be sad. It's really hard to let dogs go. And we name our dogs after service members who have made the ultimate sacrifice, or who have gone on to do great things after service. So these dogs have a story. They have a name. And one of our veterans said that a person dies twice. They die when they physically pass, and then they die when their name stops being said. And we're giving these veterans to their family, they're heroes, but no one else may know who they are. we're telling their story and we're giving them another opportunity to give back by naming the dog after the veteran. So there's a lot of emotional attachment with these dogs. You get to know the families of these veterans that we're naming the dogs after, and they get to meet the veteran that their dog, or the namesake's dog, I kind of said that backwards, I guess. They get to meet the veteran that the dog is going to. And, you know, in the beginning, and I still cry every time we sadly wave goodbye when the dog's leaving after we've taken a picture and they're on their way. And I cry at graduation when we have our graduation ceremonies and everyone's there. But I've learned that it's okay to be emotional because we are truly saving lives. We're saving dogs' lives, and we're saving the veterans and their families and changing their life better.
Well, thank you, Amanda, for being our extraordinary guest today and for sharing all about Semper K9 and how you are saving dogs' lives, saving veterans by matching them together, by training these dogs to be service dogs and to serve the veterans who need it most. So we really appreciate your extraordinary work. And I love that last piece that you just told us, and that how you're also honoring fallen heroes by naming your service dogs after them, so that that's also part of their legacy. If you want to know more about Semper K9, they are SemperK9.org, or you can follow them at Semper K9 on all social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Now it's time for our spirited stories of extraordinary acts for others that happen across our extraordinary country. We celebrate these stories because the goodness in them raises our spirits and really allow us to inspire to do our own positive contributions in our communities. So if you see any good news stories, tag Freedom's Ring USA or use the hashtag Extraordinary Acts for Others, and we will help spread the word and celebrate the extraordinary goodness. Our first story comes from South Jordan, Utah, where Mr. Smith purchased $1,000 worth of Girl Scout cookies. That's 250 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. But then something extraordinary happened. He wouldn't take a single box with him, and instead he told the girls to give those boxes away. Mr. Smith said, "We always try to do something to pay it forward, and maybe someone else will too." I think with a story like that, it makes us think how we could pay it forward. And next we go to Texas, where the Unaccompanied Veteran Program, led by the Texas General Land Office, helped lay to rest its 100th veteran. This program ensures that veterans who die without family can be buried with full military honors. And thanks to a network of loving and support from the community, they will be buried with grateful people in attendance. If you haven't seen it, you can see it on our social media page at Freedom's Ring USA. So now it's our turn to do extraordinary acts for others. Remember that we believe that the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just that little extra. This is all about ordinary service with extra spirit. So when you do serve others or volunteer in your communities, share it with us. You can email your stories to podcast@freedomsringusa.org or DM us the story on social media as @freedomsringusa. Well, thanks again for tuning in to the Extraordinary Acts for Others podcast. And if you want to do something extraordinary for us, you can subscribe. We ask you to rate us and leave us a review, and help spread the word by sharing it on your social media. We really do believe that you are extraordinary and have the ability right now to do something extraordinary for someone else. For us, remember, ordinary service with extra spirit. So we invite you to go to freedomsringusa.org and enter the ring, join our family, and become a friend.